My name is Lucas Bennett. I'm 27 years old, born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, a city where the winters can make every building look colder than it is, and every person a little harder to reach. This is the story I've never told anyone. I call it, I came to drop off a package, but her eyes delivered something else. It started on a Wednesday evening in late October, the kind of evening when the sky darkened too early and the wind scraped dead leaves along the sidewalk like whispers following you home. At the time, I was working for a private logistics company that handled high-priority deliveries for law firms, medical offices, and a few corporate clients who paid extra to have certain things move quietly and fast. I wasn't supposed to ask questions. Just scan, drive, knock, hand it over, leave. I had gotten used to being invisible. At work, that was considered a strength. My supervisor, Dennis, liked to say, "You've got the perfect face for this job, Lucas. Trustworthy enough to get the door open, forgettable enough that nobody remembers you afterward." He always laughed when he said it. I never did. My personal life wasn't much warmer. My younger brother, Mason, had stopped answering my calls 3 weeks earlier after a fight about our mother. She'd been in and out of the hospital that year, and most of the responsibility had quietly settled on me. The paperwork, the appointments, the pretending I wasn't scared. Mason said I acted like I was the only one who cared. I told him caring and showing up weren't the same thing. We hadn't spoken since. So that evening, when Dennis handed me a slim brown package marked signature required and told me it had to go out personally, I took it without looking at the address twice. Just another delivery. Just another building. Just another door. Except it wasn't. The address led me to the north side, to an old brick apartment building tucked between a florist shop and a narrow bar with dim amber lights in the windows. The building looked ordinary in the way some places do when they're hiding a lot. 4 floors, worn stone steps, brass mailboxes dulled with time. Apartment 3B. I climbed the stairs with the package tucked under my arm, the hallway smelling faintly of dust, old wood, and someone's jasmine perfume. There was music playing somewhere far off in the building, soft piano, hesitant and sad. I knocked once. No answer. I was about to knock again when I heard movement inside. Then the lock turned. The door opened halfway, and for a second I forgot what I was there to do. She looked like the kind of woman a tired man notices too deeply at the worst possible moment. Maybe 32, maybe younger, maybe older. There was something in her expression that made age feel irrelevant. She had dark hair loosely pinned up, those strands had fallen around her face as if the night had been too long to care. She wore an oversized cream sweater that slipped slightly off one shoulder, and there was no makeup hiding the rawness around her eyes. Those eyes were the first thing I registered properly. Not because they were beautiful, though they were. Because they looked like they had just survived something. "Yes?" she asked softly. I cleared my throat. "Delivery for Elena Marlowe." She stared at me a second too long before glancing at the package in my hands. Something in her face changed. Not fear exactly, but recognition sharpened by dread. "I need a signature," I said. She opened the door wider, and warm light spilled into the hallway. "Come in. It's freezing out there." Technically, I wasn't supposed to enter a client's home unless necessary. Technically, I should have stayed at the threshold, collected the signature, and left. Instead, I stepped inside. Her apartment was elegant without trying too hard. Books stacked on the floor beside a velvet chair, framed black and white photographs on the wall, a record player spinning low jazz in the corner. But the room felt disturbed somehow, as if peace had recently been interrupted. One lamp was knocked slightly crooked. A wine glass sat untouched on the coffee table, and near the window, half hidden by the curtain, was a man's coat draped over a chair. She signed the handheld scanner with a hand that trembled almost invisibly. "Rough night?" I asked before I could stop myself. Her mouth curved, but there was no humor in it. "You ever ask questions you know you shouldn't?" "All the time." That got the smallest real smile out of her. She handed the scanner back, and our fingers brushed. Her skin was cold. "Thanks," she said. I nodded, but neither of us moved. Up close, I noticed she'd been crying recently. Not dramatically, quietly. The kind of crying that leaves no scene, only evidence. And there was something else in the room too. Tension, stretched thin and humming. I'd felt it before in hospital waiting rooms, in family kitchens after bad news, in offices right before someone got fired. Then I heard it. A floorboard creaked somewhere deeper in the apartment. I looked toward the hallway leading to the back rooms. She saw me notice, and in that instant, her eyes delivered something the package never could. Not romance. Not yet. Something stranger. More dangerous. A plea. "Mr. Bennett," she said, reading my name off the scanner screen. "Would you do something completely irrational?" My pulse kicked once in my throat. "That depends." She took one step closer, lowering her voice. "Can you stay for 5 minutes?" I should have said no. I should have told her I had another stop, another rule, another excuse. Instead, I asked, "Is someone else here?" She held my gaze. "Yes." "Are you in danger?" A pause. Then, very quietly, "I don't know." Before I could respond, a man's voice came from the back of the apartment. "Elena? Who's at the door?" Her face lost all color, and I understood, all at once, that whatever I'd delivered to 3B was the least important thing that had arrived that night. She leaned toward me as if adjusting the scanner, but she was whispering. My ex-fiancé wasn't supposed to know where I moved. The footsteps began moving toward us. For a moment, neither of us moved. The footsteps from the hallway grew louder, slow, deliberate, the kind that carried confidence. Whoever the man was, he wasn't afraid of being there. That alone made something tighten in my chest. Elena's hand lightly grabbed my sleeve. "Please," she whispered. "Just act normal." The hallway light flicked on behind us, and a tall man stepped into view. He looked like someone who had spent his life being obeyed. Early 30s, sharp jaw, expensive coat, hair cut with the precision of someone who expected control over everything around him. His eyes moved to me immediately. "And you are?" he asked. His voice was calm, but it had the weight of a threat sitting underneath it. I lifted the scanner slightly. "Delivery service." Elena forced a casual tone. "It's just a courier, Daniel." So that was his name. Daniel's gaze drifted from my face to the package still sitting on the coffee table, then back to Elena. Something in the room shifted, like a chessboard where the pieces had suddenly become visible. "You ordered something?" he asked. Elena crossed her arms. "It's none of your business." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Daniel smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Everything about you is my business." My instincts were screaming that I should leave. This was personal, complicated, dangerous. But Elena's fingers were still gripping my sleeve just slightly, like someone holding the edge of a cliff. Daniel noticed. His eyes narrowed. "You can go now," he told me. I should have walked out. The job was done. Signature collected. But something about the way Elena looked at me, silent, desperate, asking without words, kept my feet rooted to the floor. "Actually," I said carefully, "I'm supposed to confirm the package contents were received properly." That was a lie. A terrible one. Daniel studied me longer this time. The kind of stare meant to figure out whether someone was stupid or brave. Finally, he gave a short laugh. "Fine. Do your little procedure." Elena's eyes flickered toward me with something like disbelief. I walked to the table and opened the slim brown package. Inside was a small black folder. Legal documents. Even before Elena leaned over my shoulder, I knew what they were. Her name was printed clearly across the top page. Property transfer. Financial separation. Protection order request. Daniel saw it too. The smile vanished from his face. "You filed this," he said quietly. Elena straightened. "Yes." The silence that followed felt heavy enough to break glass. "You really think a piece of paper is going to keep you away from me?" Daniel said. His voice was no longer calm. It was cold. I stepped slightly between them without thinking. Not dramatically, just enough. Daniel noticed immediately. "You planning on protecting her?" he asked. "No," I said. "Just finishing my job." His eyes flicked to the door, calculating the distance, the situation. Then he laughed again, softer this time. "You know what?" he said. "Keep the paperwork. I'm not interested in dragging this out tonight." Elena didn't look convinced. Neither did I. Daniel grabbed his coat from the chair and walked past us. When he reached the door, he paused beside me. Up close, his voice dropped low enough that only I could hear. "Careful, delivery boy." His smile returned. Some packages explode after they're opened. Then he walked out. The door shut behind him with a quiet click. For several seconds, Elena and I just stood there. The tension in the apartment slowly began to dissolve, like pressure escaping a sealed room. Then she sank down onto the couch. Her hands were shaking now. "Thank you," she said quietly. I leaned against the table, trying to slow my heartbeat. "Is he going to come back?" Probably, she admitted. That honesty surprised me. She looked up at me again, the same eyes from the doorway earlier, but softer now. You didn't have to stay, she said. Yeah, I replied. But you did. The record player in the corner crackled as the jazz track ended. Neither of us moved to change it. You look like you needed backup, I said. A small smile touched her lips. You're a terrible liar, Lucas Bennett. I raised an eyebrow. What makes you say that? You invented that whole package verification thing. I shrugged. According to company policy, I said, I was improvising. That actually made her laugh. And when she laughed, something in the room shifted again, lighter this time, warmer. For the first time that night, she didn't look like someone barely holding herself together. She looked alive. Then she stood and walked closer to me. Do you always risk your job for strangers? She asked. Only the interesting ones. She studied my face carefully. You know this complicates things, she said. How? If Daniel thinks you're involved, she paused. He doesn't let things go easily. Good thing I'm not easily scared. She tilted her head. No, she said quietly. You don't seem like you are. Another silence stretched between us. Not awkward. Charged. Finally, she reached over and picked up the folder of legal documents. This was supposed to be the night I finally cut him out of my life, she said. Looks like step one happened. Maybe, she said. Then she looked at me again, more thoughtfully this time. You walked into my apartment with a package, she said softly. But somehow, her gaze locked onto mine. You delivered something else entirely. I swallowed. And what's that? For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she stepped a little closer. Hope. The word landed heavier than I expected. Outside, a siren wailed somewhere down the street, fading into the distance. Inside the apartment, everything felt strangely still. And that's when I realized something that would change the rest of my life. I hadn't just stepped into someone else's problem tonight. I had stepped into a story that wasn't finished yet. And somehow, I was part of it now. I should have left that night. That would have been the logical ending. The courier drops the package, the stranger thanks him, and their lives drift apart like two trains passing in the night. But life rarely respects logic. Over the next few days, Elena and I kept finding excuses to see each other. At first it was practical. She needed someone to witness paperwork for the protection order. I helped her deliver documents to her lawyer. Once, I fixed the loose lock on her apartment door because it made her nervous. Then the excuses stopped pretending to be practical. We talked about everything. She told me how she and Daniel had met 3 years earlier at an architecture firm where she worked as a designer. At first he'd been charming, confident, brilliant, magnetic. But slowly that charm had turned into control. Calls checked. Friends pushed away. Decisions made for her. Daniel doesn't believe people leave him, she said one night. And you proved him wrong. I'm trying to. In return, I told her about my brother Mason. About our fight. About how I felt like I was holding my family together with fraying rope. For the first time in months, I felt understood. And somewhere between late-night coffee runs and quiet conversations on her couch, something deeper started growing between us. Something fragile. Something real. Then, 1 week later, the past caught up. It was raining hard that evening. I had just parked outside Elena's building when I saw the car. Black sedan. Idling. Headlights off. Daniel stepped out before I even reached the entrance. Lucas Bennett, he said calmly. My stomach tightened. You've been busy. I'm not looking for trouble. No, he said. You're looking for her. The rain dripped from his coat as he stepped closer. You think you're helping her, he continued. But what you're really doing is stepping into a war you don't understand. She's not your property. Something flashed in his eyes. Neither are you, he said quietly. But people still get hurt. Then he did something strange. He handed me a photograph. It was Elena, standing outside her old office building. But the photo wasn't recent. It was dated 2 years earlier. Do you know why she left that firm? Daniel asked. I didn't answer. Because of me, he said. The rain hammered harder against the pavement. She believed I ruined her career, he continued. She told everyone that. He leaned closer. But the truth? His voice dropped. She asked me to. My chest tightened. She wanted out, he said. Wanted to disappear from that world. Start over. She just needed someone to blame so no one would ask questions. I stared at the photo. None of this made sense. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Daniel's expression softened strangely. Because I'm not the villain you think I am. He stepped back toward his car. Ask her about the package. The words hit me like cold water. Then he drove away. When I reached Elena's apartment, she opened the door immediately, relief washing across her face. "You're okay," she said. But my mind was racing. "Elena, what was in the package?" Her smile faded. "What do you mean?" "The delivery. The legal papers." "No," I said quietly. "The reason you needed them." Silence filled the room. Then she sat down slowly. "There's something I didn't tell you," she said. I felt my pulse in my ears. 2 years ago, she continued, Daniel helped me cover up a mistake at my firm. "What kind of mistake?" Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "A design flaw in a building project." My stomach dropped. People could have gotten hurt, but they didn't. "No," she said quickly. "We fixed it before construction." "But you blamed him." "Yes." "Why?" Her eyes met mine. "Because he asked me to." The room felt suddenly very small. "He said he could take the blame," she said. "He had the connections to survive it." "I didn't." "So everything between you two started with a lie," she said. I sat down across from her. The rain outside softened into a steady whisper against the windows. "Why tell me now?" I asked. Her eyes filled with quiet emotion. "Because when you walked into my apartment that night, something changed." She stepped closer. "You didn't come looking for my past." Her hand gently touched mine. "You just showed up." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I understood the strange truth behind everything. The package I delivered that night wasn't just paperwork. It was the moment her life split into before and after. And maybe mine did too. I squeezed her hand gently. Sometimes the most important deliveries in life aren't the ones you carry in your hands. They're the ones that arrive in your heart when you least expect them. I came to drop off a package, but her eyes delivered something else entirely. A second chance,